Hey, my happy shiny puppies. This is Melody Fletcher, author of Deliberate Receiving. Finally, the universe makes some freaking sense. And just a quick reminder, that book is on sale. On the Kindle version of it is $2.99 in Amazon.com for the month of May. So if you haven't gotten it yet, go get your copy now. All right. So today is day 17 of my 30-day video challenge. Finally figured it out. It's the date. Haha. Anyway, so today I want to answer some questions that have come up in the comments, various comments wherever they're coming in from. I am reading them all. On some of the videos I've done, I've touched on or even talked about different aspects of setting boundaries. The video, I don't remember which one it was, but where I talked about, being able to let everything in and then still have boundaries, and all kinds of questions have come up that I've sort of gathered up, and I'm going to do a video where hopefully clarify this whole issue of boundaries, because it's a big one, and that's why I've talked about it a lot on my blog, and I've done several videos on it, certainly on my blog. God, there's so much content on my blog, I don't even remember what I did, so I think it's time to refresh this topic and hopefully clarify it some more. So one of the questions I got was, what's the difference between boundaries and defensive mechanisms, which is actually a really, really good question. So this will hopefully clear it up. Boundaries come from a place of power, empowerment. Defensive mechanisms come from a place of powerlessness or fear. Yeah? So defensive mechanisms, well, they cause you to get defensive. That's where the name comes from. It's all about control, trying to control the other party. So, for example, saying, you don't get to be this way, you don't get to do that. That's when we try to go out there and try to create laws that say nobody should do that, or we try to ban something. Nobody should get to have that because I don't like it. This is when people yell at you for being offensive to them because you curse. I feel like all these videos are feeding into each other. But really that's what it is. When you hear somebody trying to shut somebody else down, you don't get to say that. You don't get to do that. You don't get to be that. You don't get to, be the way that you are or act the way that you do, or you don't get to be angry, or you don't get to be nasty, or you don't get to be insert whatever you want here. And no matter how valid it sounds, whenever we're trying to go out there and control somebody else, it's coming from a place of fear. Because why do we need to control them? Why do we need to shut them down if they don't have any power over us? It's only if we think they have power over us that we get into our little fighting stance and go, oh, you don't get to do that. So another defensive mechanism could be total withdrawal, where you go, okay, I'm going to get away from this. And so I talk about setting boundaries and being able to being willing to walk away to defend that boundary. And then, that can be confusing. So I want to explain that in a defensive stance, you do a sort of total withdrawal. I'm just going to go into my little snake house, and I'm not going to let the world get to me anymore. And so the difference between that and setting boundaries is that in the defensive mechanism, there is sacrifice. You are sacrificing what you want. You are sacrificing who you are. And in setting boundaries, which comes from an empowered place, there is no sacrifice. And when you're setting boundaries, you're still able to be open. You're still able to be allowing, meaning I allow you to be and do whatever it is that you want to do. You just don't get to do it to me. Yeah? So you're not railing against the whole concept of this person behaving this way. Nobody should be allowed to do this, or trying to shut some product down. Nobody should have this product, or this should be illegal. You just say, I want to be able to not have this touch me. And so you take the power back to yourself rather than putting the power on them. So the metaphor that I like to use is if somebody's punching you in the face, in the playground, you don't have to say to them, you don't get to punch people. A boundary is, you don't get to punch me, which means that if you want the pleasure of my company, if you want there to be a relationship here, then you don't get to keep doing that, because if you keep doing that, I'm going to walk away from you. This isn't going to happen anymore. A defensive mechanism becomes sort of aggressive, where you then say, I'm gonna shut you down, and you don't get to do this. But you're keeping yourself in that situation often, and what you're sacrificing is the kind of relationship that you want. Yeah, where you're saying, I'm going to battle you, you're doing this thing that I don't want you to do, but we have to be in this relationship. And so I'm going to try to fix this. I'm going to keep trying to fix it. I'm going to keep trying to fix it, instead of saying, you know what, this is not what I want. Here is what I want. And if you don't want to play with me on this level, then I'm out. I'm going to go manifest what I want. A boundary is honoring yourself. A boundary is a form of self-love. Yeah, where you're making it more important that you are taken care of and that you get what you want, rather than that you cater to somebody else. There's that sacrifice bit again, that you have to be in this relationship with them, for example. Yeah, and so setting a boundary requires that you do a little bit of work. It requires that you figure out what it is that you want. And remember that it isn't about controlling somebody else. So when I ask somebody, I take somebody through an exercise of creating a boundary, it's usually a little bit trial and error, and I try to lead them there rather than just giving them the answers. And so I might ask, well, what do you want? And you say, I want, let's keep it in the realm of relationships. Yeah, I want my husband to treat me better. Yeah, for example, or I want my boyfriend to treat me better, or I want my boss to be this and this and this way. Well, that is control. You're trying to control the other person. So if you open it up, you say, you know what? They get to be grouchy. They get to be grumpy. What is it that I want? I want to have experiences that feel this way, not that way. I want to be in a work environment where I get to be creative and autonomous and respected, instead of I need my boss to respect me and give me autonomy so that I can feel that way. Starting to see a theme here? And so then you activate the frequency of what you want. You start to get into that feeling. Give it 2 minutes, not 15 seconds. Most people quit after 15 seconds. Give it 2 minutes where you're really sort of activating that frequency of being respected or autonomous or creative, which means that you got to do that work. You got to reach for that, yeah, and activate that. And then see what happens. Now, if you have discovered that you want that and you've started to activate that, yeah, and your job is just absolutely not willing to give you that, or your relationship is not willing to give you that, if you have no resistance, which means if you're not hanging on to this in any way, saying it has to be this job, it has to be this man, it has to be this thing, then it will just gravitate out as you do that. It would just gravitate out, next thing will gravitate right in. But usually it doesn't happen that way. What happens is that we're hanging on to it without realizing it, and so it will come and it will test us. We will manifest, it's not really a test like the universe testing you, but you will manifest the thing that you're holding on to, and it will be sort of an opportunity or a challenge. And so your boss might come right up to you and take away, micromanage you, or your boyfriend or husband might do the thing that you really, really, really don't want them to do. And in that moment, yeah, there's some more work to do. Now, sometimes it's simply for you to set that boundary. Here's what I want. This is the boundary I set. I'm not trying to control you, but this is the boundary I set. So you might have a conversation with your boss. Hey, I would like some more autonomy. You might need to have a couple of anger releases first. You might need to figure out, how it actually makes you feel that your boyfriend or your husband is doing this thing that seems really arbitrary, but it's pissing the hell out of you. You're just, and clear that. So there's some work to be done there, depending on what shows up. And ultimately, if this is simply not what you want, because you're activating over here, what is it that you want? What is it that you want? Oh, that feels so good. Oh, that feels so good. This doesn't feel good. This doesn't feel like that at all anymore. Then you're getting some clarity that maybe you need to let this go. And sometimes that means actively walking away, making that decision, because you have to make that decision because you haven't made that decision before. And by not making that decision, by not being willing to let it go, you've been hanging on to it. And then that keeps manifesting. So boundaries are not about control. Boundaries come from a place of empowerment, but of course that requires that you do some work to get into the empowerment. And the process of setting a boundary, you wouldn't ever have to set a boundary, by the way, if you never held on to anything that was ready to gravitate out. You could just activate and let it go, and activate and let it go, and let the next thing come in, and activate and let it come in, and let it come in, meaning you need to let that go. But that's usually not how it works in the real world. Most of us are a little bit stubborn. Yours truly included. Yeah. No, I never hang on to anything ever. Totally not true. Yeah. So then we have to go through the work of setting a boundary. Setting that boundary is a temporary measure, really, on the way to not hanging on to things, because that's just a fear response as well. Yeah. And letting the new thing come in. It's on the way. It's sort of a training wheel process to garnering more trust. So hopefully I have cleared that up. I think that was pretty good, right? Was that pretty good? Okay, so what do I want to know from you? Oh gosh, I hadn't even thought about this. I want to know something from you. I want to know, what do you think? So I asked you before, what do you get defensive about? Got lots of messages of that. So maybe, taking it from the defensiveness stance, ask yourself, what is a boundary that you want to set? Which again requires you to figure out, what is it that you actually want? What is it that you want to reach for? And is there a boundary that you need to set that you're not setting? Meaning, I'm putting up with something I don't really want to put up with. And setting that boundary will allow you, it's sort of the training on the way to then choosing something else wholeheartedly, entirely, 100% with trust. So I hope I cleared that up. All right, until tomorrow, I love you guys. Thank you for bringing your light to the world. Swishy, swishy hugs. All right. Bye.